Good morning and welcome to today's webinar on Cloudutils Guest Access Made Easy. My name is Vanessa Cardwell. I'm Marketing Manager here at Network Utilities, and I'm joined this morning by Malcolm Orakoya, our Senior Technical Consultant. Today's webinar will give you an overview of our Cloudutils Guest Access solution, one of the most competitive guest access solutions available, allowing your corporate guests to self-provision access or your receptionist or support teams to easily provision Wi-Fi guest access where needed. So to get started, let me quickly take you through the agenda. The presentation today will last about 30 minutes with an opportunity for you to submit questions which we will answer at the end. Please use the question tab on the control panel to submit questions at any stage during today's presentation. So we would like to make the webinar as interactive as possible today, so we're going to invite you to answer a couple of poll questions which will be presented to you throughout the presentation, and we'll be sharing the results of these poll questions with you during today's presentation. So do please participate, as we very much welcome your thoughts. So we thought it would be useful to start with a little look at the guest access trend. You'll all be too familiar with the rise of user expectations for anytime, anywhere wireless access, and the increasing pressures this places on the IT team. To meet this demand, today's organisations are required to offer guest Wi-Fi services throughout the communal areas of their head and branch offices for visitors, contractors and some staff. And in response to this trend, we offer a simple and secure guest access solution which removes the headache of managing and provisioning guest access, thereby reducing pressures on the IT team. It's based upon a subscription service with no upfront hardware costs, and this is one of the most competitive guest access services available today. So with this guest access trend in mind, I'd like to now ask you to participate in our first poll, which I'm going to launch now. So you should see that coming up on your screen shortly. So if you could answer for us, do you already have a guest management system in place for provisioning internet access to staff, contractors and guests? So it's a yes, no or in progress answer. So if you could answer that. Thank you. I can see those poll results coming through now. And so you get a feel for what your peer group are, what stage they're at. We'll share that and those poll results with you now. So you should see there, some of you already have a guest system in place, but predominantly majority of you haven't yet got that guest access system in place. So thank you very much indeed for your input on that. I'd like to now invite Malcolm to join me in giving us an overview and a demo of the Cloudutils guest access solution. We hope you enjoyed the presentation and we look forward to answering any questions you have at the end.
Thank you, Vanessa. Just further to what Vanessa said, we wanted to highlight on this slide some of the key features and benefits of our Cloudutils guest access solution. Starting with the fact that it removes the IT management burden of implementing and provisioning a guest access solution. This is obviously dealing with the fact that you don't have to buy any hardware, software, and deal with the maintenance and support contracts that you have to deal with a self or provision system, internally provisioned system. So it's a fully managed system that removes that burden. It also allows your reception team to provision guest access without involving your IT. So if you want to take away that responsibility from the IT team and pass it on to reception desk or security desk where you can easily provide guest access credentials to people coming onto your premises, you can do that quite easily. Very easy management portal available here. It obviously reduces the costs and overheads of managing a guest access solution. As I mentioned in the first point, hardware costs, software costs, maintenance, support are all reduced, and you're dealing with more of an OPEX expense where you know exactly how much you're going to be spending on a monthly or a yearly or whatever term you've signed up for, rather than dealing with a CAPEX expense, so heavy expense at the beginning. It ensures risk-free Wi-Fi connectivity for valid guests. So depending on deployment type you use, you're able to provision your guest users onto your wireless network securely, making sure that you identify the guest and you validate them before they actually get access to your network. And it can be simply integrated into your existing IT infrastructure, wired or wireless, to either integrate with your existing systems or just be standalone and provide internet-only access for your guests from any device. And of course, it ensures that all your data retention and reporting responsibilities are met, dealing with requirements in the Digital Economy Act and data retention compliance policies that legally require users providing guest access to be able to provide information on the usage of that network. And we'll discuss this further in the presentation. So on the next slide, just wanted to highlight the two main access options that we provide, which are the guest self-provisioning and the guest manager system. Now, the guest self-provisioning system allows your guest users that walk into your premises to easily self-provision access into your wireless network through an easy web-based registration interface. The registration interface also provides validation of that guest by sending them an SMS text message to the mobile telephone number that they've put in their registration form. And of course, it provides flexibility and scalability because you can scale up and down on the number of guest users that can use your guest access solution or the guest access solution that we're providing. So again, you know exactly how much you're spending, either a monthly, yearly, or whatever term you sign up for. The guest manager system option is basically where there's a bit of human intervention from someone within your corporation, whether that be someone at the reception or IT support admin or reception security staff on your premises. Either of these guest managers are provided with a self-service portal, which is web-based, where they can actually sign up your guest users or provision a guest access account for them. The additional benefits of this are that they can set the access criteria for those guest users, so they can determine how long those users are allowed to access the system, whether it's for a day or a couple of hours or a couple of weeks, depending on what the users or how long the user is going to be in your premises. And they can also determine what area, if you have a large wireless deployment and you have different sites, or maybe like a university or something, you can provision accounts for specific sites for the guest user. And of course, it's flexible and scalable as well, as I mentioned on the previous one, also because you can scale up and scale down your requirements as your business requirements change. So we wanted to walk through exactly what happens on both types of access options, and we'll start with the guest self-provisioning. So on this slide, I have a very basic pictorial view of what happens when a user, bottom right-hand corner, connects, a guest user connects up to your wireless access point, which is managed by a Cloudutils managed guest access controller. That guest access controller is connected via your internet pipe to the Cloudutils management platform, where we provide a bunch of services, including web server, auditing, and authentication service. So you can see that we've got AAA and management traffic, so authentication, authorization, and accounting for the guest access solution. And of course, you then have the authenticated user allowed access to the internet. So what happens when a guest user walks onto your network? They will locate a guest SSID that's published on your access points on their device, whether it's a smartphone, tablet, or laptop. They connect to the SSID without a password, so it's an open SSID. And once they're connected, every browsing attempt through any browser is automatically redirected to the registration page. So the user has to register their details here. Some of the fields are mandatory, including the mobile telephone number, where they will receive an SMS validation which provides them with the Wi-Fi access credentials to the network. So once they've got this passwords to log into the network, they can then put in the username that they've registered and the password that they've received through the validation text into the next screen, and then they'll be allowed access onto the network. Of course, The Cloudutils platform keeps records of all data usage and everything that's accessed by that guest while they're on your network. And we also have built-in web content filtering, so we can block any malicious sites or sites that you don't want your guest users browsing to. And of course, in addition to that, just the last point on the slide there is you also have the option to maybe provide a terminal within a secure area in your premises, like a lobby or a receptionist area, where you can get the guest users to self-provision access onto the network on that terminal. So they can do that on the terminal, get the credentials validated, and then put in the credentials onto their device, smartphone, tablet, or laptop. So if I just walk through very quickly what it looks like. So this is a typical view from a laptop, and you've got an NUSL guest published there. You can see it's not got a padlock, which requires you to enter a password. So the user comes in, you have something easily named guest or with your credentials, and then you connect to it. Once you're connected, you get automatically redirected to this page from any browser, where you can either put in new credentials or the details to register for an account on the right-hand side. So your name, email address, mobile telephone number are mandatory. And you can see there in red the text message containing the password will be sent to your telephone number. If you happen to have accessed the guest portal before in that particular site, and your account is still active, so there's a default period of time which is configurable. So say, for example, 30 days, and you happen to come back within 13 days, you can log in on the left-hand side with the credentials that you registered previously. So if we're a new user, we put in our details, accept the terms and conditions, and register an account. We'll get this next page, which basically automatically processes our transaction, giving us a countdown from 10 to 1 and then go. During that process, an SMS text message is sent to the telephone number you put on the registration page to provide either password details. You then have the log-on page there on the right-hand side, where you can put in the username that you registered and the new password that you've received, and you will automatically get connected to the system. And we have an automatic redirect to a page of your choice. So that could be your website. In our case, it's cloudutils.net, or it could be a holding page that you provide to us, or any page that you want your guest users to see initially once they've accessed the network. Of course, from there, the guest has access and they can browse freely the internet. Now let's look at the guest manager system. So very similar process, but as I mentioned before, you have the interaction from the guest manager, so that could be a local administrator, receptionist, or someone at the security desk. The user experience or the guest experience is similar. They come onto the network, locate the guest SSID that's published, connect to that guest SSID with that password, and once connected, every browsing attempt in any browser gets automatically redirected to this page that you see on the right, where there's some text informing them that they need to get an account registered or provisioned for them. So they need to speak to the guest manager, whoever you've chosen that to be. The guest manager has their admin portal where they can then log in and create a login account for that particular guest, take their credentials, take the mobile telephone number so they can get the validation information as well, and also set and configure policy to determine where and for how long that particular user has access to the network. So as I mentioned before, if you have a larger site, maybe like a retail company might have several sites that they're managing, so you want to provision access for specific sites, or maybe a university that has a large campus. Once the user has been provided details, they get access as normal, and of course our platform once again has a content filtering built in and keeps records of all the data usage and everything accessed by the user. Again, very important point here, because we are by default allowing you to comply with your legal obligations here to be able to track data usage and everything that guests do on your premises when they're accessing your guest network. So again, a very quick walk through. This is a typical guest manager administration page where you'll be provided with admin credentials to log in. Once you log in, you're able to choose the site that you want to provision access for. So see in the top right hand corner there's a choose site. Again, depending on the company, you might have one site or you might have several. And then you can put in the credentials you can see in the bottom right there and the appropriate policy for that particular user. And you'll be able to see what accounts you've actually provisioned, when they were provisioned, when they were last accessed, and whether they're active or not for that particular site. Important point to point out here is I mentioned before you have a default time period that accounts stay active, which is configurable. If it's 30 days, for example, after the 30 days, the accounts will get disabled and automatically get deleted off the system. Now, we just wanted to highlight here as well some of the enhanced offerings from our Cloudutils guest access solution. We obviously have the basic customization of the page, but we also have advanced custom login page branding, so we can completely rebrand the admin page and the self-registration page to match essentially anything you want, maybe your internet site or your intranet site or any sort of branding or basically anything you want to show to your guest users. We also have email password delivery for self-registration, which is an alternative to the SMS-based validation. Obviously, there has to be a means of actually getting that email. So if you're on a tablet or whatever and you're trying to connect to the SSID, then you probably won't have access to email on that particular device. But if you have a phone or whatever, then you can get your email that way. We also support multi-language options. And finally, we have a fully managed guest access integration that's based on leading vendors' equipment. So here we're able to extend your managed guest access deployment to also include a fully managed wireless local area network. And take into consideration things like bring your own device, which is a hot topic now, the various types of users that you have with regards to BYOD, and the different types of authentication methods that you have with different types of users and different types of devices. So with that in mind, I just wanted to invite you to answer our next poll question, which covers the different wireless access requirements, and I'm just going to launch that now.
Okay, thanks for that, Malcolm. You should see that second poll question appearing on your screen now, so you could take a minute to give us your views on this. When planning your guest access solution, are you likely to deploy a new wireless network incorporating guest access, deploy a completely separate wireless network to your existing wireless network, or overlay a guest solution with your current wireless solution, or your final option there, it's too soon to say, or you don't currently have wireless? So if you could just take a second to give us your thoughts on that, and we'll just wait for those results to come in. Give another couple of seconds there. Okay, I can see that you've all answered that, so I'll just launch the responses to that so you can see how your peer group are thinking along those lines. You can see there, overwhelmingly, most of you are thinking about overlaying a guest solution with your current wireless solution. Right, that's interesting feedback there, so thank you very much for participating.
Okay, so further to what I briefly mentioned and also that question that we just asked, we have this slide talking about BYOD enhancements, which basically allows our Cloudutils guest access service to integrate with your BYOD requirements. But before I talk any further, I just wanted to highlight a very important thing, that the guest access and BYOD are completely different and have to be considered differently. You need to take into consideration what type of access you're trying to provide and what type of resources and what type of users. So on this slide here, we've highlighted the different type of guest devices, employee-owned devices, and corporately owned devices. Just to give you a pictorial view of the different types of users that you can have. Now, typically, a guest access solution will be providing access to guests that are coming onto your network with any device, and that typically just need access to the internet. So obviously we have other types of access when you're talking about bring your own device, which typically deals with employees bringing in their personally owned devices, smartphones, tablets, laptops, or whatever, or even corporately issued devices onto the wired or wireless network and wanting to access corporate resources, and not just the internet, but corporate resources and applications that exist within your LAN. So all these different types of users and the different types of devices will help you to determine your BYOD policy and the type of authentication and access that you grant. If I give you a very quick example, if you have an employee with his or her own device, they may be allowed access to certain corporate resources, maybe you know, an application, CRM application, Outlook, Anywhere, or something like that. But you might not allow them full access, because although you know the user, because they can validate themselves through some authentication credentials like Active Directory, you don't necessarily know the posture of the device. And in most cases, you know, personally owned devices can't be controlled by the corporation. Whereas on the other hand, if you had an employee with his or with a corporately issued device, rather, you know the posture of that user, and you also know the posture of that device, so you can determine, you know, whether that device has AV, or you know, if everything's okay with that device, and subsequently, you can provide full access to all your corporate resources, and that can go all the way up to your LAN and accessing different types of services and resources on your LAN. So just an example there. So our guest access service can be enhanced to incorporate BYOD access requirements on the same physical infrastructure. So that's the same access points, the same controllers that we put in for the guest access solution, and take into account these various profiles of users, devices, and corporate resources that are being accessed, as well as integrate with your existing BYOD policy if you have one, or we can actually help you to structure a new BYOD policy if you don't already have one in place, all as a managed service. Now, secure access, when we do this, can be integrated through a variety of means, like providing different SSIDs for different types of access, guests, employees, and so on and so forth. Having VLAN separation, as you'd imagine, is standard. We can do stuff like 802.1x authentication using various types of supplicants, and also role-based access as well. So it's quite a lot of stuff that we can deal with there.
Okay, so as Martin just explained, BYOD integration is very much bespoke, so we invite anyone that wants to explore BYOD options further to get in touch with us on that. Okay, so moving on now, thank you very much indeed, Malcolm, for going through the Cloudutils guest access solution for us there. We'd like to now open up to questions. So if you have any questions for Malcolm on what you've seen today, please can use the question tab to submit those now, and we will endeavour to answer those questions for you. Okay, so we can see a number of questions already coming through here. Malcolm, which one would you like to start with there?
Okay, so there's one here that says, why is there a need to identify the guest? Is this by law? Actually, it's two questions, but from the same person. Okay, so it's actually three questions from a particular user. So it's, why is there a need to identify the guest? Is this by law? Please discuss Digital Economy Act, because our legal team say this is still a grey area and it's still not solid as yet. Now, essentially, when you provide, within the Digital Economy Act, when you provide guest access to typically the internet for guest users on your network, you're seen as an ISP. You're providing internet service to users. As a result, you're required to be able to show data usage and information of who's actually come onto your network at what particular time and what they actually did. So even based on just source, destination, IP address, URL information. And you can be asked to provide that information for up to a year. Now, the Cloudutils guest access solution will provide you that compliance capability out of the box. Obviously, the exact details of the Digital Economy Act, it's a very big act and covers various things. I can't go into all the details now, but that's the general gist of it. Because of that type of service that you're providing, you're required to be able to have that audit trail for users that walk onto your network and use your facilities.
Okay, so we can see a number of questions coming through. This is obviously a hot topic for you. We're just looking through them now. So Malcolm, I think we have got about half a dozen questions here, so we may just have to pick a couple of them. And if we don't get through all your questions today, we will endeavour to contact you after the webinar to go through the rest. So which one should we take now, Malcolm?
Okay. There's one here that says, is it possible to link our Active Directory so that college students can use their existing logins to access the wireless network? And the answer to that is yes, but the key there is to notice or bear in mind that basically you're integrating a sort of BYOD solution with the guest access solution there. So obviously you've got users or students in your college that have Active Directory credentials. Yes, we can talk with your Active Directory, but those are not users those are not guest users essentially. So yes, we can integrate with Active Directory. As I mentioned, we can integrate with a BYOD solution to provide you with something that would allow your student to access your resources with their AD credentials either on a device that you've issued them or a device that you haven't issued them. So essentially the answer to that question is yes.
Okay.
There's another one that says, can the guest managed service control each AP? Yes is the answer to that. The guest managed service that we provide has a controller, and the controller controls the access points that are deployed within your premises. So yes, obviously the key there is you don't have the hardware cost of you managing the control, well, buying the controllers for one, managing the controllers, the access points, and everything else. It's all within our Cloudutils platform, and we manage the entire infrastructure through our connection from the cloud to your premises or to your infrastructure.
Okay. I think we've got time just to take one more. Sincere apologies if we don't get through all of the questions today because we have had quite a few submitted, but we will endeavour to get back to you on any unanswered questions as soon as possible after the webinar. So we'll just take one more before we go.
Okay, there's a question here that says we're looking to deploy a solution with 2 SSIDs, 1 guest, 1 staff. This will be managed from the same AP. Can your solution handle just the guest side using the above setup, or do we need separate APs? The answer to the question is yes, the solution can just deal with the guest side of things, and you can deal with the other side, or I guess the staff side of things. And this is where where I talked about, well, actually the poll question, having a separate wireless overlaying it with your existing, and so on and so forth. So I guess the key things there are whether it's a completely new solution where you've already had CapEx expenditure on your access points, and if that's the case, it would be a situation of making sure that those access points are compatible with our controller system, i.e. that we can actually control those access points. But if it's all yes to those questions, then the answer is yes. We can provide the guest access solution for the guest SSID, and you can control the staff SSID and deal with that yourselves. Okay,
great. And before we finish off here, Malcolm, can you just quickly take us through how the solution is priced and licensed?
Okay, good question. The solution is on a per user per month, 12-month minimum or flexible subscription, so you can sign up for a year, 2 years, 3 years as you see fit. But it's a per user per month subscription. which obviously, and it starts from 10 user minimum, which obviously means you can scale up in blocks as you see fit. You don't have to get a chunk right at the beginning, and you can scale down as well, more importantly, as the requirements within your business changes as well. Okay.
Thank you very much, Malcolm. We're going to finish off the webinar there. I can see that there are more questions coming through, but we will endeavour to get back to you all with answers to those. Thank you very much indeed for submitting those questions. It's great to see so much interest coming through, and also thanks again for contributing to the polls. It's good to sort of get some feedback on that as we go through, so it's a bit more interactive. Again, for more information, you'll see our contact details there, so do please get in touch if you'd like to know anything else. But again, we'll get back to those of you with outstanding questions as soon as possible. Thank you very much for joining us today.